So, the topic of discussion in this presentation is business registration requirements in Singapore and how do you decide whether a specific company is doing business in Singapore or not. So, sometimes what happens, we get an inquiry from a client and they mention that I just do some transactions in Singapore every year. So, the volume is not big and therefore I don't want to register any company in Singapore. I just want to provide services and I just need a bank account there so that I can receive the payment for whatever services I have performed. So the idea is that they don't want to incur the cost of incorporating the company, maybe nominee director, then maybe having secretary, registered address, and so on. Now the question is this justified? So let's have a look and let's first understand what is the requirement to register the business. So according to Business Registration Act, business registration is a must in Singapore. So what it states is every person shall before carrying on any business in Singapore make an application to the registrar in the prescribed manner for registration under this act. And obviously if you don't do this, then there are fine, prosecutions and other legal consequences. Now this requirement itself is not difficult to understand. This is quite a straightforward requirement. But the complex part in it is about carrying on any business. How do you define carrying on any business? For example, a software company sells its products worldwide. Some customers sign for their services from Singapore. Does it constitute carrying on a business in Singapore? Or taking it to the next level, a company ships its own products to Singapore and provide warranty on those products also. Does it constitute carrying on a business in Singapore? So the real complexity is about defining what is carrying on any business in Singapore and it depends upon case to case basis. It is not very easy to define a specific situation, especially in today's world where the global trade is so much prevalent. Today it is very common that people sit in their home, order something on internet in USA and a product gets delivered in few days to their home address. So in that circumstances, are we going to make all these companies liable that they must register a business in Singapore? And going by this logic, if every country in the world makes same compulsion, then that means any company which is supplying this kind of products worldwide will have to do 195 registrations, one per country. The test of carrying on any business generally has some well-known parameters. So the first thing to consider is whether the company maintains any bank account in Singapore. Because if you're doing a business in Singapore, maintaining the bank account is the first thing that you will have to do because you want to be able to receive and make the payments. Then the next test will be whether you employ any person, whether as an employee relationship or whether as a contractor-contractee relationship. Then whether the company creates or incurs any debt and whether it raises any loan. So these factors can be considered to decide whether the company is carrying any business in Singapore or not. In general, it can be said if any part of your supply chain operations in Singapore is not carried under any business registration, then it is considered that you are carrying a business in Singapore without a proper business registration. So I will give one example here. Let's say that your company is somewhere, maybe in United States, and it ships the products to Singapore. And in Singapore you have rented a small warehouse and you have employed a couple of people, and then you ship it to people in Singapore. So in this case, you have employed people, you have rented a warehouse, and that activity is not covered by any business registration in Singapore. And that is the reason why this will be considered as a case where you are carrying business activities without registration. Instead, if you do the same activity but engage a separate party like a logistics service provider, a warehouse service provider, who does all these activities under his own business registration. So he provides the people, he carries out all the repacking and everything and then bills you at the end of the month, then that will not amount to carrying on any business in Singapore without registration. So in summary, idea that you can just carry out few transactions in Singapore and have a bank account to account that is not a logical one. In most of the cases, it amounts to doing business in Singapore and obviously without proper registration.
Thank you for watching this video. This video was brought to you by Epica Consulting Singapore. Subscribe to our channel today to get notified when new videos are posted.